In this last video, what I'm going to do is answer questions 5e, 5f, and then finally 5g, because these are a little bit faster. So in 5e, what they want you to do is to apply reverb to all the parts to give it a sense of ambience across the mix. So there is one thing that I noticed on this track, that the second track, your synth or your bass synth, it does indeed have reverb already on it. So my first question is how much that you would need it on these. I'm probably going to argue to you that it might need on these chords here, and definitely on the vocals. So again, whenever you're using an echo or a reverb, I always recommend that you use this as a send. So on all these tracks, let me just open up these chords, that you're going to have this first INF here is going to be linked into the reverb, which is here. And all you want to do is just turn this up to taste. The same thing goes for your vocals. Just turn this one up here like this, and just make sure that the reverb can be heard on this. What you don't want to do is have just a little bit of reverb and the examiner not be able to hear it. One thing as well that I always remind all my students: do not solo out and listen to this reverb. Make sure that the solo is off and that you can hear the reverb, because again, the examiner is not asking for you to upload a soloed out track. This is going to be the whole mix. Finally, on 5F, for the balance of these levels, what I normally do is do a little bit of analyzing first. So let me just open up these drums. The drums aren't too loud. The synthesizer, yeah, if you can just look at this, the synthesizer and the bass, that is quite loud compared to my drums here. So I already know now that if I want my drums to really pop out, that I'm going to have to probably turn down this volume of my synth. So what you could do is you could solo out these or mute the other tracks and just see how your drums and your synth work out. I would then put on my vocals like this and solo out or mute out the other tracks and see how that blends in. Just looking at this, I probably would argue that this track with the vocals is a little bit less in volume than your drums. So again, it's all this sort of like going back and forth and just saying about which one you're going to have to mix in with the other tracks. And again, don't solo anything out. Make sure that you can hear it in all of these tracks. And then finally, for 5G, this is about exporting your file out. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because if you were to highlight all of this just like that and then export this out, notice how at the very end of this, I still have this gap here. What I would recommend that you do is this. They've asked you that it's not going to be cut off at all, and that the start and the end don't exceed 1 second. So what I would do is this. Notice how Edexcel will start this track on bar 2. I personally would probably go down and look at the time down here. So this is 1 second to 2 seconds. So you can't use really any of this at all. And because all this is under 1 second, and I would probably argue to you that you can probably do something like this. Now that you know where this is going to start, I would now then grab this, and then again just go to the very end. And what's important at the very end is to make sure that if there's an echo or reverb, that it's not being cut at all. So again, just listen to the end of this, make sure that there's no parts that are being cut. And what I would personally do is drag all these back so that you know exactly where those are. Now, just to be on the safe side, one last thing that I always do is this, is I always have a look at where this will start, which is about 1.4, and then it ends, in this case, it's going to end at 41. So when you export this out, just make sure that this is, on 1.4, and this is on 41. So let's move this up to 41, like that. The other way that you can do it is you could export out your mix without worrying about your start or your finish, and then re-drag it back into your Ableton. And then with that, what you can do is then crop down all of your tracks like I did here. Just pull all those back and make sure that they're under 1 second. The only thing about this is that you must solo out your track that you drag back in, because if you don't, it will you'll have both in there, which will be a slight issue. Okay, if you have any questions, do let me know.